like I said in my last video, I'm Cadence, and today we are going to be talking about The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is a very, very good book that is all about basically like feminine power. The book was about a girl, and she volunteered to go to the Hunger Games for her sister, Prim, that had been chosen to go to the Hunger Games. But Katniss volunteered, and then Peeta, which is also from her district, also got picked for the Hunger Games.
So what are the Hunger Games?
The Hunger Games are a series of games that began a long, long time ago. I think it was like 75 years ago. I don't know. It started with a war against the districts and the, military, sort of. No, government. And the government won, and the districts lost. And so this is to punish them by sending their kids every year to their deaths, I guess you could say. Either they win, which there's a very, very slim chance, or they lose. And if they win, it means fame and fortune for the rest of their lives and food for their district for like a month. Or losing means certain death.
What did you like about this book?
Well, what I liked about the book was that it was sort of, I don't know why I was drawing. Just because from the first minute I opened the book, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna love this. And so it gets more and more drawing, and I couldn't put this book down until it was finished, because it was so suspenseful, I guess you could say. One of my least favorite parts was when the little girl died, Rue. The boy from District 1, I think, killed her. And Katniss sung her to sleep, and she put her in flowers. So.
That sounds like a sad scene.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So.
Ready with the questions. 3, 2.
Katniss feels ashamed when Peeta tells her, I want to die as myself. I don't want them to change me in there, turn me into some kind of monster that I'm not. She had been worrying about survival, not about principles. Do Katniss and Peeta become monstrous during the games?
No. They basically stay themselves.
Do they kill people?
Yes. Katniss only killed one person, the one who killed Rue. She tries to stay out of that situation as much as she can.
How do they reach the point of making their stand at the end of the games when they stake their survival on a principle?
Well, they have these berries that are poisonous called nightingale, I believe. And they put them in their mouths and then they spit them out because they said that both of them won. They did put the berries in their mouths to show the corporate that they didn't have control of them. So they thought that they were both going to die because they both put the berries in their mouths.
So does that make them less monstrous, that they were willing to sacrifice their lives for the principle of both of them living?
Yes.
The adults in this novel are portrayed as having serious flaws, serious imperfections. Why do you think that they're portrayed this way?
Well, I think the author made them specifically that way because they don't, most...
Who is the story about?
The story was about Katniss and how she created a good role model.
Okay, what if Katniss had a mother who protected her and looked out for her?
Well, then the book would be kind of more,
Who would the book be about then?
It would be about her mother.
As much as it is about her.
Mm-hmm. And so there's so many imperfections because then the book would just be about all the adults, not about the kids that go to the Hunger Games.
Okay, so also, what do you think most of the young people grow up to be like living in this world?
Well,
what kind of adults would that make of them? Living with the Hunger Games and the starvation and all the difficulties of their life.
Well, I don't think they would be as, happy as we are.
So what kind of adults then would that make them?
Crisp and stiff and not really talking about anything. That's what I think.
Why do you think they're like that?
Well, because they didn't want to go to the Hunger Games. And they don't like the way the Hunger Games work. But they don't want to fire another war about it, because then they'll know that they might do it twice a year. You never know.
Do they have any reason to believe things are going to get better?
No. Because they might get better. There's like a 5% chance that...
How would things get better?
Well, first of all, the military would stop... What was it called again? The government. The government would stop sending their kids to the Hunger Games.
Why would they do that? Is there any indicator to the adults that that's going to happen?
No. So there's like a 0% chance.
So what don't they have?
They don't have a reason to believe that something good is going to come. It would probably make them upset and never smiling and always frowning. And
would they keep fighting?
No.
What would they do?
They would just stop. Just stop fighting. Because they've been fighting for so long that they get so tired of fighting. So they have to stop.
So they would give up?
They would give up hope. All hope.
Exactly. So is that what you see in most of the adults in this book?
Yes.
Katniss's mother is one of the most important. Do you think Katniss is too hard on her?
Yes, in some ways. Because her mother lost her father. Her mother lost her husband. And she kind of lost her will to live. But she's still a doctor, and she still has 2 kids to take care of, to cook for.
Is she taking care of her kids?
No, not really.
So what about the other adults in the story?
Haymitch.
Okay. What about Haymitch?
Well, he is like PETA. He is a lot like Katniss, too. He was in the Hunger Games, too, and he won.
How does he live his life now? What does he have in common with Katniss's mother?
Well, he has in common that he also kind of lost his will to live, too. After he came back from the Hunger Games.
So are there any adults that don't seem to have lost their will to live?
No, not really.
So why do you think she chose to tell the story from the perspective of teenagers?
Well, because they haven't been fighting for that long.
That's right.
And they haven't lost their will to live yet. They still have hope.
That's right.
Because they still have a long, long time to live.
Okay, question number 3. Nature is a large presence in the book. Is it an ally or an enemy?
Well, it's both an ally and an enemy. Because it's more of an ally than an enemy. But if you read the book and you heard about the Tracker Jacker wasps, those are their enemies. Unless you go and you cut their branch down like Katniss did. She also got stung by them. And so did almost all of the other.
Okay, but are the Tracker Jackers really nature?
No.
Why not?
Well, because they are living things.
They are living things, but where did they come from?
They come from nature.
They came from nature? They were just naturally existing in the world where Katniss lives?
No, they were bred by special kinds they were bred by, I don't even know, there were wasps, and then I don't know what the other was.
Okay, so we see lots of bioengineered things. We see the tracker jackers that are enemies. We see other enemies that are also made by the government out of nature. But what about allies? Are there any allies?
The trees are Katniss's allies.
That's a good point.
She likes being in the trees.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the victories that Katniss has?
Well, she goes hunting, and she almost always catches them.
How does she defeat some of her enemies?
Well, with a bow and arrow.
How else?
With the trees to help her. With nature to help her.
Aren't there berries at some point?
Yes, there are berries, but actually that was Peeta's doing.
Okay, so how do the berries help Katniss and Peeta?
Well, they killed one of their most stealthy enemies, I guess you could say. They called her Foxface. I'm not sure what her real name was, but they called her Foxface. And as Peeta, he took the berries and he gave them to her, telling her that they were safe to eat when they really weren't.
Okay, so there's a place where maybe their knowledge of nature was helpful to them?
Uh-huh.
And then what about in the scene where Rue dies? Isn't there something of nature there that's kind of helpful?
The flowers help.
Well, there are the flowers, but what else?
Well, like what?
Aren't there mockingjays that sing Katniss's song?
Yeah, there are mockingjays that help, but they are a cross between blue jays or jabberjays and mockingbirds.
But they're another positive force of nature, right? The mockingjays never hurt anybody, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Well, there's also
how does nature play into the very end? How do the Hunger Games end?
With Katniss and Peeta eating, like not eating the berries, but putting them in their mouths.
So what did nature give them?
Nature helped them gain control over the capital. Okay, now it's your turn. You tell me in your own video what you thought of the books. I promise no matter what, I will answer to your video and we can have our very own discussion about the book. You should discuss it with your parents, like I said. If they say no, you can just put them in the comments box. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.